Okay, hello everyone. Nice to have you on this podcast. We are here, me, Elias, Victoria, Lawrence, Alexei. We are at Zelar, which is a pop-up city in Berlin dedicated to making death optional. So we're longevity, life extension people. And in the next hour or so, we're going to be discussing why we came here, what we see, how we see network states in the future of longevity, why we want life extension in the first place. And just to start off, perhaps everybody here could briefly introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Alexei. I'm in the longevity industry for more than 10 years. I was a early team member of several startups dedicated to longevity. One of them is quite known, is in silico medicine. The other one is Giro, which is also quite known. I founded my own companies, and I think longevity is the biggest problem humanity faces, and I'm working on how to accelerate it, and Zelar.city is one of the opportunities to do that.
How are you connected to Zelar? How did you come here?
Say it again.
Like, how are you connected to Zelar? Why did you come here?
Well, because I knew Victoria and Lawrence, and they told me about their opportunity. I was like, yeah, I can go. I need to go, and I joined them, and it was a great experience for me. So, like, basically, I co-created the experience for myself. So as well.
Yeah, I'm Lawrence Ion. I'm a longevity advocate, entrepreneur, investor. Started initially by investing in the field and needed more experts around me. So and wanted to have more startups be available. So with VitaDAO, we started this online community to fund early stage research and then spin it out, create more longevity biotech companies. Then realized about the bottlenecks with clinical trials and regulations, and when you go into humans with these therapies, when they're at that advanced stage, and how pharma doesn't really get it, biotech VCs don't really get this new approach to medicine, bringing aging under medical control as the root cause instead of managing symptoms and keeping people healthy so like usually the traditional system is kind of keeping people in a poor state of health for longer, and we want to actually address the root cause, prevent Alzheimer's or reverse Alzheimer's, heart disease, cancer, and all these, with the root cause being aging. So I also started experimenting with how to bring people together in person and govern ourselves to create better laws and regulations to move at warp speed with these therapies. So Zuzalo was one of the first experiments. Montenegro last year with Vitalik Buterin brought 200 people for 2 months. That was the first pop-up city. Mm-hmm. And then spun out of that, as it became a decentralized movement, spun out Vitalia, went to this island in Roatan where there's already a special jurisdiction, and now I'm helping grow the movement, helping projects like Zelar.city, which Victoria started, and can tell you more about them.
Thank you, Lawrence. I'm Victoria Forrest. I initiated Zelar.city with a lot of help from all of you guys. I have a background in the arts, which is completely outside of longevity, but that helped me think creatively and get interested in different areas like my own health, body work, and biohacking. And from there, I entered the Web3 space for VitaDAO, thanks to VitaDAO, basically. And I've learned a lot about the initiative. And it just came to me that, oh my God, longevity and aging is the biggest problem that we are facing right now. So we really need to come together and work on this, join forces and move fast. Otherwise, it's too risky to not be working on this. I attended Zuzalo for 2.5 months. I was in Montenegro and then 4 other pop-up cities. So I had the first-hand experience of being a resident. And later on, I was thinking, well, we need more initiatives like this focused on this problem that I think it's the most important one. So Zelar.city was the next step to bring people who are interested in the longevity space together so they can collaborate, they can co-create, they can cross-pollinate ideas. And Berlin was the place to come. I've been spending a lot of time in Berlin. So yeah, now we're here wrapping up the project. It's been a blast for 6 weeks. It's been super hard. I want to do it again. Yeah, we're planning for the next steps. So.
Well, best of luck to you. And Elias?
Yeah, my name is Elias. I'm the host of this podcast, and I think, by far the youngest and newest person to longevity in this round. To learn about the field, I went to ARDD, and there I met Victoria. It's a big conference, and Victoria told me about Zelar, and I was like, I really love this idea. So I reached out to her. I was like, I want to help. I want to, like in a way, as a way for me to learn about the field, to get to know people, and at the same time already start contributing. So I reached out to her, and now I actually helped a lot in creating Zeller in a way that learned a lot, got to know a lot of people, and yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, I mean, Zeller network state is a fascinating topic, and I think we will return to that and the debate between the trade-offs between trying to reform the system and exiting the system at in another half an hour or so. But first, I want to sort of inquire to you guys. How did you really get into life extension per se? So, in my example, for instance, I read Ray Kurzweil back when I was in my teens, which is like when I had this aha moment, and I kind of didn't want to die. So that was when I came into transhumanism. I think Aubrey de Grey's Ending Aging was the stepping stone for both you and Lawrence, if I remember from your other podcasts. And if you could just comment briefly on what motivated you to make that first step, and also what you think would be the best way to get people who are interested, perhaps sympathetic to this, on board as well, and to make it into more of a mass movement.
I can go next. I have a personal story which is related to my parents' health, and that was the aha moment for me back in 2013, I think it was, when my dad got a back surgery. And I was at that time working in a corporation, sitting at a desk for 12 hours or more, and I started having back pain, and it was super scary to think about that at some point I might get there as well. So I then started to look into what I can do better to make sure I delay as much as possible the health issues. But Lawrence was a huge influence on really getting to be curious about the research part and the life extension aspect. Through VitaDAO, I guess that was my entry point, VitaDAO with decentralized science and Web3. And from there I met the most influential people in the space, and I've learned a lot from them. And it was, of course, the arguments make so much sense. It makes zero sense to work on something else right now, given that I'm aging, everyone around is aging, so.
And how would you get more people into this? Because the first step people are going to take isn't to go to the silent in Honduras or even to Zeller.
Creating Zeller, I guess, is the first step. Staying in Europe was one of the arguments or the reasons to make it accessible for people to travel, to come here. Is the way that I think is most effective and efficient to offer the platform for people to join.
So not everyone can travel to some remote island or some location where usually pop-up cities are. Also, this is probably the cheapest one, right? It's really affordable, and as we grow this global network of people living together, experiencing what it's like to live together with like-minded people, live healthy together, have healthy food readily available, exercise together, co-work on these biotech companies that can actually address aging, and be open-minded to a new society, a revolution. Eventually, as we keep growing this in every major city, then we can all move to the new location, because I'm talking to various governments to establish a new jurisdiction, which is going to be like a longevity mecca, like a Los Alamos for longevity. So that's why it makes sense, and Zelar.city is just the first longevity hub, and so the goal is to be a permanent hub in many, to have like embassies in every major city where people can go anytime, not just for just the pop-up, it's kind of like a launch party, right? Like you kind of test to see if people want to stay and also bring enough energy to kind of seed that long-term hub in every major city.
And Berlin was like an incubator for people traveling from around the world to join and stay here for 6 weeks. But a lot of locals also got interested and they joined, and now they're asking what's next. So they really want to have this hub in Berlin.
Yeah, so I think if we were able to convince at least one or two people to dedicate their careers to longevity, it was a success already. But we probably did more than that. Yeah, if we get back to your question, what convinced me to transition to the field, it was indeed Aubrey de Grey debate. It was back more than 10 years ago, probably 2012, 2013. And the most important message in this debate, I don't remember anything else, but the most important message I remember from this debate was that aging is malleable, that you can do something with aging, even though the data is early stage, preliminary, but it's robust for several animal models. So nothing really predicts us, nothing really prevents us from actually doing aging interventions. And I was like, whoa, that's most important stuff you can do right now. But the industry was way smaller back then. So it took me another couple of years to actually join it when I met several founders and scientists in the field. So I think if we want to convince more people to join the industry, very important message is to actually convey this message that aging is malleable, and people might not join the field first, but they would hold this message in their heads and might join a little bit later. And that's what actually I focused my time here at Deller. I did like a very, very newbie-friendly website together with you, Anatoly, as well, which is focused on new people in the field who will read, like in a very, very simple words about aging science and achievements. It's literally just like several sentences, and then they will be able to find their place in the field, or where to learn more, or if they are into science and they have master's degree, what labs to join. So there is like basically a landing page for new people, but again, it's a little bit more advanced than just the simple message that aging is malleable.
I think it's been missing that we didn't have enough jobs for people. Like a lot of people might have been like, yeah, I would love this for this to happen, but I'm not a biologist, and there weren't like jobs specifically for their skills. Let's say they're just a marketer or just anything, like lawyer or whatever, right? And the cool thing about these gatherings is just by joining a conference is helpful too, but like joining a pop-up city, joining a new society, being part of this network, joining eventually, like actually moving to a new city, and even if you just build a coffee shop or anything you do there, even just your presence there helps with this cohesion, with this larger network, and anything you do there, even if you do something completely unrelated to longevity, you bring value to that longevity city, and therefore value to the movement. Even just like you existing there means more people live there, there's more legitimacy for us to have our own laws and regulations, and to say we want to self-experiment, we want to have medical freedom, we want to make drugs in a few months instead of the usual few decades. And yeah, we can self-experiment, so it doesn't have to cost billions. It's just very little to no money to actually make clinical trials.
Just to quickly share that website, that's Aging, FYI, for your information. We'll have a...
Aging.fyi.
Yeah, we'll have that in the links below, obviously. So yeah, anybody else have thoughts, ideas about this?
Like the question is about like why we went into longevity, so also the arguments.
And also, yeah, like I'm a newbie. Don't really have much of an idea about these network states things. Perhaps I'm even a bit leftist and view these like as gatherings of the assholes, like one person literally told me. So, like, how would you like try to that pill them on this?
I don't know, like for me, like working on longevity, like it's like by far the coolest project like I can imagine to work on. Like I came to this like from first principle. I didn't know that anybody's working on that. Like I just did my podcast about philosophy and I was thinking about like, okay, what is all things considered the most rational thing to do? Like what should we do in life in our limited human existence? And then I just arrived to the conclusion that the coolest thing I can work on is to try to solve aging, because it will, like, the biggest bottleneck we have in our life is time. And if we manage to solve this bottleneck, like, you can do whatever. Like, you can, like, work, yeah, exactly. You can, like, this is like such a simple argument. You can either work on a random project and die, or you work on aging, survive, and then you have all the time to work on all the random projects you want. I can do thousands of years of philosophy if I solved aging. Like, so it's so that is my reason to work on that. And the reason for pop-up cities is just like how, like, if you want to work on that, you want to get to know people, and I think this is a way better way to actually make connections in the field than going to a conference. Like, a conference is nice, you meet people, but like it's more this like, oh hi, my name is Elias and this is my LinkedIn. Do you, like, here we like actually make friendships, and you actually are surrounded by people that want to work on the same thing, and like there's so much that can grow out of this. So yeah.
I mean, that really does bring us to the main distinction between conferences and more permanent structures such as pop-up cities and villages. So with a conference, you go there, you exchange Telegram contacts, LinkedIn's, and then you forget about them. That's how it usually goes. But with these pop-up cities, you're in a community that is aligned around some goal, and it's not only in the internet. They might not own land yet, most of them, so it doesn't formally qualify as a network state as per Balaji's classical definition, but it is a network society. So on this topic of like your future visions for Zelar, we've had Zuzalo, which kind of sprouted this entire network state movement. Many of us, I think all of us, no, except you, yeah, were at Vitalia earlier this year. Like I was there from January to March, which is in a special economic zone in Honduras, which their constitutional court a few months ago ruled that it was actually unconstitutional with retroactive effect. And this kind of brings us up to another kind of like problem or issue that I would kind of like to solicit your thoughts about. It's the trade-off between a centralized location, relatively centralized location such as Vitalia, versus this more of a node structure, but where the individual nodes have less autonomy, and also the trade-offs between hosting them in like more developed countries with a better rule of law, where governments won't like declare you illegal with retroactive effect, and like poorer, less developed countries with weak rule of law, who might give you generous incentives at the beginning to move in, but then the government changes and they try to take it all away. So would also like to solicit some views about this.
I think we want all of that. We want
both growing this global network of people gathering together and having these permanent locations in every major city where they might not have enough autonomy. They could still do some decentralized trial on existing drugs, supplements, whatever, just to kind of train for what comes later. And then also have a special jurisdiction that I think it's probably going to be in smaller countries because they get more benefits. So our pitch to governments is we bring a lot of investment, billions of dollars, foreign direct investment. We create a lot of jobs. We bring in talent, like we bring in top doctors, build a top tier 1 hospital, so the locals can use it at subsidized by the clinical trials arm, and also of course puts the country on the map as like the place for biotech innovation nowadays. Drugs can make hundreds of billions actually each drug. Now if you're talking about Ozempic and so on, right? But also, or COVID vaccines or so on. It can be very significant, way more than the economy of these small countries, just each drug itself. So if you can crank out drugs very fast, and of course, then the problem is scaling them, but that's a separate issue. Of course, if you actually have a good effect on aging, you have billions of people that are aged and would like to be rejuvenated and healthy again, make the world healthy again. So PR, of course, a lot of potential economic upside. We want to share the upside with the locals, eventually also the dividends. Also just the talent that you bring in, right? Because usually these countries have brain drain. A lot of their best people are leaving. In this case, you're bringing top doctors and scientists and entrepreneurs in there to a tier 1 hospital. And it's a medical innovation mecca, and it puts them on the map as like the...
Could I just quickly challenge you on this? You could do that and try to appeal to locals, and you do create more job opportunities. That's obviously in evidence with respect to Prospera and the local community in Roatan. But one sort of abiding problem is that the government doesn't necessarily answer to those locals, and it can appeal to populist rhetoric that these are colonialists, that they're exploiting local labor, natural resources, and so on, and use it as a pretext to shut you down, at least if you don't share your spoils with the elites. So how do you tackle this sort of institutional problem?
Yeah, multiple locations. So ideally we have 2 or 3 of these special economic zones. And if one doesn't want you there anymore, you take all your benefits and leave. And I don't think they will want you to leave. But we need to do better than Prospera to actually create a lot of jobs, to actually bring in a lot of investment, to actually share upside with the locals. And I don't mean just the locals and neighbors, everyone in that country.
Yeah, I think I agree that where decentralization comes in place as well. I agree with Lawrence. We need to do multiple experiments. Some of them will work, some of them won't. And again, some experiments will focus on the clinical aspect, already on the application, and some of them need to be focused on R&D or making companies. And for instance, the first ones you would need to be doing in places like Prospera or other more or less tropical islands, but the second ones focused on initial R&D need to be focused on locations closer to biotech hubs like Berlin, San Francisco, Boston, etc., because there were talent and infrastructure already. So I think the only way forward is multiple bets, multiple seats, and see which seats will grow, and then to support these seats together, but in a sort of a decentralized community way.
Yeah, the way I see it for going to a country which will be a host country is to look at the collaborative way of doing things. So it's not the perspective of going and extracting value, but both bringing value and also integrate the local community. Like if you go there as a group that you have a goal in mind and you want to create this unicorn company that will bring a lot of value to the host country, then also take the time to work on the social engineering part, like integrate in the community, learn the language, add more that it already was there. So I think it's a win-win situation when you look at things like this way. And I don't think anyone will say no to a win-win situation. It's like, we're bringing value, you're giving value.
Still say no, but worst case, we leave the place better than we found it. So
and I think that's where the journey is like we're creating pop-up cities, network nations, network states. So once the community is big enough and enough people will be willing to move to a physical location, we can test in one place. If it's not working, we can test in another place and so on, or simultaneously, like assuming the community is big enough.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, I think I sympathize with Lawrence's idea that, like, when you get more nodes around the world, then the whole structure becomes more anti-fragile in Taleb's terminology. Yeah, Elias, do you have anything to add to that?
I just think, like, the fact like to have multiple nodes is also like it caters to different needs. Like there are people that just don't want to leave Berlin or they don't want to leave Germany, and so it's super like it's good to have a node here, even if we can't do any like crazy trials or changes in jurisdiction here, but like just to have a space for people to come together, which is like a first place. And then of course we need the special economic zones where we kind of can change more of the laws and more of like the way we do it. And yeah, I just think the more different things we have in different places, the better.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good idea, and we like in turn with in line with this idea of going where existing talent, human capital concentrations already exist. Like one idea I've had recently, which I kind of want to sort of like quickly do, would be to compile a list of prospective global cities where such a project would make sense. I think some obvious candidates you'd want like at least a couple of them on every major continent. So USA, San Francisco, obviously, probably New York and Miami, maybe Austin. Europe, Berlin and London are the two obvious ones. Perhaps a skiing thing in Switzerland and a beach thing in Montenegro, and in East Asia, obviously Thailand beaches and Tokyo and Singapore. Singapore being the most obvious sort of Web3 capital of East Asia. But just turning it over briefly to you, what either concrete plans or future visions do you have of where you want Zelar or Zelar-like structures to expand to from Berlin?
Yeah, going back to your ideas of US cities, next one I have in mind is a collaboration between Zelar.city and another project that is going to happen in the US this summer. And yeah, more details will come soon. US is one big hotspot, so of course we want to bring the talent there and live together, co-work together, see what's sprouting out of that. And besides that, of course, other countries in Europe, potentially even Eastern Europe. Yeah, I'll keep you updated.
Speaking of Eastern Europe, can you guys explain why there seem to be such a disproportional number of Romanians in this space?
I guess we're doing a great job at bringing people in. Yeah, we have quite a few Romanians.
Maybe the vampire thing. Yes, we're vampires.
Well, Romanians and Russians, I guess, a lot of them in the space.
Yeah, we have a lot of Russians. My hypothesis is that the Soviet Union used to do like people in the Soviet Union used to think quite big, and anything that is not big is not interesting for like ambitious people with Soviet roots. It's not only Russians; we have a lot of Ukrainians in the field as well. And aging is such a big, interesting, and valuable problem that Russians like, okay, that's interesting. We need to solve that. Let's do it. So it's ambitious enough to move the humanity forward.
Not only with sauna.
Not only with sauna. And the other thing that moved the needle forward is actually after Soviet Union collapse, we had like 10, 15 years of anarchy-like freedom, such that like some people were killed, but also some people were not afraid to express wild ideas. And like the second cryonics company was started in Russia, second in the world, second ever company, then like way before this generation of cryonics companies. So this like anarchy-like system with a lot of freedom was also conducive to big ideas, and people are still stemming from there. And because we started to grow in our society dedicated to aging, like our field, we started to grow it way earlier. It's of course, way bigger in terms of number of interested people, but still quite small, unfortunately. Like for us in the field, it feels like we're doing a good progress. There are many people who are coming, but still there are probably 10,000 people in the world, not more, who are doing actual part-time or full-time aging projects. So, yeah.
I think that's an interesting frame, and I do think the cultural component is quite important. This is a bit politically controversial, perhaps, but one problem that Europe tends to have is this degrowth ideology. And they also a very egalitarian ideology, and so you have this impression that if you extend lifespans, then you get some kind of dystopian society in which rich people start like living forever, whereas at least death is now the big equalizer. This isn't directly related to this, but just a few days ago, I was at the Futurium Museum in Berlin, which is supposedly futurist. But the main panel about using genetic editing to improve humans, for instance, was like this, had this long lecture by a bioethicist who was saying that, oh, we need more global regulations about this, it's very dangerous. Elias, as a German, do you have any thoughts about how bad this is, and like how we can like uplift Europe to a more enlightened attitude?
Yeah, I think I am a special case in that I don't feel like I'm so indoctrinated in that. Like for me, I don't know where it comes from, but I had like, as I said, like first principle, I came to longevity. I was just like, yeah, like there's nothing, I can't see any argument why this should not be possible. So, and I think it's the coolest thing to work on, so I should work on that. And yeah, of course I see like this degrowth a lot, especially also where I grew up. It's like a very left city, like full of students, and like so a lot of this like ideology that we have to try to like scale things back is like around me, but I don't think it's everywhere. And I think maybe good arguments. I don't know how you could convince Europeans.
There's also this initiative of EU Ag, which is growing right now, especially with AI and Web3 space. So I think there's the need. People, especially young people, they see the need. They see the stagnation, and nothing moves or comes out of Europe for a long time. Oh, maybe Nordics will do some things, and they will innovate here and there, like having some companies. But otherwise, nothing comes out of Europe, or it's been coming out like in the last, I don't know how many decades. So there's a need, and I think it's coming and it's happening.
Yeah, I think this is a great point, Victoria, because like 15 years ago, you could still cope that Europe, like it might not be as rich as the US, but at least it's got walkable cities, and it's got more leisure time and so on. But now, frankly, the US is so much richer that those are the like relative benefits that Western Europe have faded away. Only really Switzerland is still as rich as the US, and Norway, but Norway has oil. So yeah, I mean, I think that's a great point. And Lawrence, I think you also wanted to add something.
Regarding convincing people, I don't think rational arguments work. I think you need stories, appeal to emotion. I think things like Hollywood, right, are great at this. Like you follow a protagonist through an immersive experience. You empathize with the hero's journey that goes through and believes that it's bad, and then figures out, oh shit, I was like wrong, but like through action, not through arguments, right? And there's so many counter arguments or like concerns people have to a world where aging would be cured, and then once you realize that a society without aging would actually be fucking amazing, then I think people will change, and of course that it's possible. So both feasibility and desirability, and I think you kind of need to do them both at the same time.
And people are so different. Like some people, like I am a person, I need the rational arguments, and other people maybe like I think you do. You think I don't?
I think we're wired for storytelling and for stories.
I think we should approach it from multiple
You have an
angles.
emotion, you're convinced emotionally, and then the rational arguments help you rationalize and justify your emotional conviction already.
Yeah, but like
I think
Mental
I was literally like I came to longevity through rational like thinking through arguments. Like I didn't watch any movie that was about that. I didn't read any book that was about it. I just did my own rational arguments, and in the end, I was like, well, I should solve it.
you were probably already emotionally, because same for me. I didn't necessarily.
Yeah.
I was just futuristic. Like I was a
Okay, yeah.
techno optimist. I was in love. I was curious about the future. Always optimistic about the future. And yeah, I actually first saw. Well, there are many ways in which I heard about this idea of longevity, but I think Aubrey de Grey's TED Talk in 2007 was like, oh shit, like this is amazing. They're actually like working on it scientifically, and of course they're gonna do it. And then later, it was a decade later, I was like, okay, not much
Where's
has
my
happened.
flying car?
Where's my anti-aging drug? Nothing was really. I mean, I looked into it and I was like, okay, there's some drugs in development, but like, what if it's not going to happen fast enough? And I talked to some people, and it seems like okay, the field is not moving fast enough. So I finally got the courage, also by thinking from first principles and having some experiences, having a sabbatical, having my own health issues, which I kind of have a history of like growing up with surgeries, a lot of time in hospitals, and so maybe also because I had these health issues, I was more present to these ideas of what it's like to be frail, have joint pains and all these and I just kind of didn't want to continue degenerating as I age, and especially when I'm really old, and then of course don't
This like
want to die.
it can be looked at as a very selfish reason, right? But we should think about also about all the people in the world that are like 100,000 people dying from age-related diseases, and that includes our parents, not just ourselves, because we are in our 30s, like we're early, the first part of our life, and we kind of have time, but our parents don't have much time, grandparents as well, if you still have them, and so many other people in the world. So first is also an emotional connection and a need to help those people. It's not just me. I'm not doing this because I don't want to die. I also care about so many other people I love and I care about. And I think everyone should have the choice to not age and die without having the intervention.
Totally agree. And going back to your question, how do we convince Europe? I would want to talk about another project I started here. Finally, it's Longevity Economics Institute. And I think I agree we need to convince some people with stories, but some people like bureaucrats, like leaders, they need data or analysis to justify, to rationalize their good stories. So that's what I'm planning to do, is to put numbers into like how good it would be for the economy to tackle age-related diseases, like how 5 additional healthy life years would affect the city, the country, the continent, all the stuff like that. So we kind of have a lot of napkin mass to that, but a few people went beyond the napkin, and I think we need to do a lot of granular calculations and modeling to actually convince people, and they're used to make decisions based on 100-page report or something like that. So yeah, I will provide them reports.
And going back to like the value of having this kind of gatherings in pop-up cities is this kind of projects emerging out of these gatherings.
Yeah.
Alexei met Sasha here. They joined forces. They joined knowledge, and they created something new, completely.
Yeah, that's an example. I had this idea in mind for like a year or more, but I didn't have time and I didn't have enough knowledge. But like I met people who were excited by the idea, and they have more knowledge than me on how to do actual economic modeling. So we just like, okay, let's join forces and do something about it. Yeah, so I think this is the most important part about places like Zeller, and that's why I came here. And that's exactly what I actually got. Like people who are thinking about the same problems and are passionate about solving aging. to do something like this together. And there were like, this is not the only opportunities I got there. So like, there will be probably several other opportunities I will be exploring in the nearest several months. So I think things like that needs to happen more often in more places in the world.
Yeah, I mean, I think we need to fire on all cylinders, so to speak. You're about convincing the bureaucrats or giving them a course. I don't think many people will really be reading the hundreds of pages of the ports, but it's important to have them. Yeah, I mean, and changing the culture. I mean, I think the point, one sort of meta problem we have is that throughout all of history, searching for life extension was a fool's errand and a dangerous one. There was that Chinese emperor who took mercury and died of it. So you have, lots of counterexamples. I think the first, literally the first story, the Epic of Gilgamesh, was about the futility of seeking the elixir. But it really is different, and we need to come up with new stories. So I think, like Nick Bostrom, actually, like one of my favorite short stories is the fable of the dragon tyrant, where he makes the point of visualizing death as a kind of dragon that eats 100,000 people in the kingdom every day, and people are so convinced that it's a natural part of life that they delay killing him, and even that extra delay that they make by not investing resources early enough, they just lose a ton more people than if they had if they'd began on it the day after tomorrow. So one thing that I think would be really cool is that for every fantasy story like Lord of the Rings, where the people who want immortality, they become enslaved to evil, like the Nazgul, or the Forsaken in the Wheel of Time, or Voldemort in Harry Potter. Like, you need fantasy stories amongst other stories where instead the search for immortality is portrayed as the ethical sort of good that it seems to be, well, at least for us here.
Yeah, better stories for better, for the current times, let's say. Better solutions for the current time. We're keeping like implementing the same solutions for like today, but they're so outdated. So we need a new story to move things from here.
It makes a lot of sense to accept that which you cannot change, but aging is malleable now, right? We have the tools, and we think we can do it soon. We don't know how soon, right? People didn't know how soon planes are gonna be able to be made to fly. Top physicists were saying that heavier than air flying machines are impossible, like Lord Kelvin. People didn't even believe it after they succeeded. They had to kind of fly over presidential inaugurations and so on and show like, oh shit, this is actually working. So estimates, especially about the future, are very very hard to make. So
yeah, and the question I hate to answer is like when the cure for aging becomes available, and like I hate to answer it with a number, but I love to answer it with, guys, we can do something about it if we put more resources, more thinking, more people more money to the problem. We will do it faster. So, and I think this is also like very important message to convey. And like answering to you, Victoria, stories, we still need them, but we probably need to convey them in another way. Like, for instance, like several days ago, I was told that everyone in the industry has to do blogging, podcasting. Like, everyone in the industry has to produce content because it might be the best way to convey the message and to convince more people. So like we have a lot of decentralized stories happening. So like that was, I think, quite a good idea. So like I actually started another blog in Telegram after it. So yeah.
Okay, yeah, so turning back to what we can do, sort of like last major topic for this discussion, I'd like to briefly discuss what you consider to be the main bottlenecks in aging research, and how networks, states such as Zelar, could ameliorate some of them. So some of the bottlenecks I've identified as data availability, talent that is interested in working on this, the application crisis, which affects the biological sciences quite severely. There's money and the apparent reticence of billionaires to give us tons of money. Cultural attitudes, we probably won't discuss that because we just discussed that, and also the question of AI. This has only really become relevant the past couple of years, but AI right now is so hot that even me, who's sort of like not like really fully in like this life extension sphere, even I know a bunch of people who've defected and have gone into accelerating AGI. Yeah, I mean, quick question to all of you guys. What are the main bottlenecks out of these or other ones, and how can projects like Zelar ameliorate them?
I want to say something to like what you say with defected to building AGI. Like I don't know if we should see it like this because like they're also like they're also working on something of value like that might like maybe them pushing AGI or like better AI faster will help us to like solve aging faster. Like it's not that they like went away and do like chilling on a beach. Like they're still working on something valuable.
Obviously. I mean, I suppose another way of phrasing this is that what is the argument for staying in bioac when AI is just so incredibly hot right now?
Then I would give to you guys.
So great list there. You forgot the regulations.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
Go on about them.
yeah, I mean, so first of all, I wouldn't say that Zelar.city or all these are network states, even Zuzalo and so on. Like the network state is an online community that crowdfunds territory and then gains diplomatic recognition. And none of these have diplomatic recognition. I think that might take many decades or so on for network states to actually, like, there is no network state yet. You know, there are network unions like VitaDAO, for example, a collective capable of action in a scalable manner. If VitaDAO would crowdfund territory and then eventually gets diplomatic recognition as like, okay, if this building complex is owned by this network, then different laws apply here because you guys have your own jurisdiction. Like that's, I think we're pretty far away from that. We're just talking about global network of people also living together, and at least one, maybe a few special jurisdictions where we can have different laws. And that's not really a network state. It's just a network union with physical instantiations, I would say. And of course, it solves all of those problems. So, more data, because we gather together, we can do these trials together, right? More brain power, right? It's like Los Alamos, where all the top physicists were in one location. The fact that you're together, you can attract more talent, because talent wants to be where the density of talent is already. So you have network effects on talent. Then the replication crisis, we're also very much into DeSci. We didn't really talk about that. Decentralized science, basically executing and funding and publishing science without permission from institutions that are centralized, like governments and so on.
And citizen science, like we are chipped with CGNs. We're like collecting data at a smaller scale now. But once we gather more people and more people want to experiment on themselves, then we can have a way to collect this data and further on have a platform where all these data is collected and stored, and then we can do something with it.
Yeah, in my personal opinion, as you can infer from what I talked before, the biggest bottleneck is money. I think we have to convince both countries and high net worth individuals to channel more resources towards aging, and money will solve a lot of problems except for probably regulation. But I think that will accelerate the field the most. And I've been thinking about these bottlenecks for like several months, like almost every day. I didn't come up with anything but more money, because you can buy more, basically organize more research.
Still, you need to spend so many billions on a clinical trial.
Yes,
Instead of going to
more-
regulation to another different jurisdiction where regulations are not so strict, then you can spend less and do more.
So more money, but allocated properly. 'Cause
Yeah.
we were thinking, oh, with more money we can get more people. With more money we can get regulations changed, right? But like the key is that you actually do the right things with that money.
Yeah.
Just having a lot more money pulled, like actually can be detrimental if it's put into the wrong direction. It entrenches those things, right? And I wouldn't say like, oh, get billionaires to give us money. First of all, you just create value, and of course everyone would like to participate in that, and ideally not just billionaires but everyone. So that's this decentralization thing where anyone can contribute capital to longevity through things like VitaDAO. There's Vita token, right? And that's the only way, because usually unfortunately regulations are preventing people from investing in startups or investing in VC funds. You have to be an accredited investor, so basically already rich. And so it's not about billionaires giving money. Of course, it's great if they invest or donate as well. Ultimately, you're not going to take that money with you in the grave, right? So it's also the most impactful thing you can do. And I wish we could. I wish I was president of the U.S. and could just say, okay, we're going to go to the moon by the end of the decade and spend billions, or like we're going to cure aging by the end of the decade or so. I think it's probably going to take 20 years. But yeah.
This is ideal scenario you're actually describing. Apollo-like project, or I'm like International Space Station more. It's like a 200 billion international project, and I think we need something like that for longevity if we could convince all the world to do. But then, of course, the data we gathered in pop-up cities like that, like people thinking how to best allocate it, will be invaluable in this moment, because we would like tell, okay, let's do clinical trials there, let's do clinical trials in that particular way, let's do R&D in some other place, etc., etc., etc. So yeah, of course, it's all pieces of one big puzzle of how to accelerate us not dying.
Anybody have anything more to say?
Like maybe one thing, like if the biggest bottleneck is money, like how do we get this money? And I think there's like awareness is super important, that like people know it's actually possible. Because if you don't think it's possible, like I don't even think about putting money in there. Like, and so if it's like a cultural shift, like the money will also slowly shift, I think.
I mean, it's all synergistic, right? Because billionaires, generally speaking, they're pretty scroungy, because billionaires don't get to become billionaires by giving all their money away in the first place. So.
So bringing people together helps with creating better culture, better stories, pulling money together and actually creating. When you create a new city from scratch, that's like a huge economic upside you have. You can start with $1 per square foot land, and it can be then thousands of dollars per square foot if you become a Hong Kong, Singapore level, or Dubai, and you can actually even start with cheaper. So you can get venture scale returns on land, but with downside protection of real estate, because if it doesn't work out, you still have the real estate, so you don't actually lose the money. So that's unprecedented. Usually you take risk to invest in startups to get startup venture scale returns, 1,000x, 100,000x, but then you probably lose, like most likely the startup will fail, so there's a high risk that you lose that money. With real estate, that's not the case, but with real estate usually you make very little returns. So this is something very undervalued, and of course you have the token economy as well, and a piece of each of the therapies that could each be $1 trillion therapy, because of course billions of people will want to rejuvenate themselves.
Yeah. Speaking of token economies, could you also really briefly expound on the role, if any, that VitaDAO plays with Zelar? Because I mean, obviously, VitaDAO, Berlin is also like a major center for DeSci and Web3 stuff. So BioXYZ is based here, I believe. That's the main launchpad for new DeSci DAOs. and VitaDAO is like really like integrated into that entire ecosystem. Yeah, by the way, congratulations. I checked CoinMarketCap earlier today, and I think it's $2.7 now. So yeah, congratulations for being in the bull market again. So yeah, I mean, if you could sort of like just describe the role of VitaDAO in this project.
So Vitaly brought us in to do the longevity part of Zuzalo, right? And so I got very involved in everything regarding organizing Zuzalo. Then when it comes to Vitalia and Zeller and so on, we're just very synergistic. It's just this big network, and it's not like an official partnership or anything. It's just we're all kind of working together, helping each other. And there's people intersect, like Victoria is also part of VitaDAO, and I am, of course, part of VitaDAO. So
I'm a hodler of VitaDAO and part as well.
Yes, I'm a hodler as well. Yes.
You need to get.
I'm not yet.
you deserve some governance power based on your work here at Zeller.
Zoomers have been priced out. Well, okay, yeah. That's been a very productive discussion. I think we'll be wrapping it up. Unless anybody have anything to add to the topics we've discussed before we come to the conclusion, where we just sum up our reflect on Zala, what we learned here, and get the chance to share our projects and the next meetups. Yeah, fine. Okay, yeah. Then if we could just as at the beginning, go around and go back around, and reflect on what you've learned here, accomplished here, and what the future plans are.
I don't need Alexei, do you want to start or?
Yeah, well, as I said, I did a small project with this universal landing page for new people in the field, and I will be doing on this larger project of Longevity Economics Institute to convince more people to channel more resources into the field and to put granular dollar amounts to new pop-up cities or special economic zones where they can bring local economies. So yeah, that will be a major part of what I'm doing next few years.
For me, it's yet another inflection point, another learning point. So Zuzalo was life-changing. Oh wow, we can have something with greater density than San Francisco. With just 200 people, it feels better than San Francisco because I'm walking around and I'm seeing like-minded people. And with Vitalia, with the special zone and how we can actually attract, of course, the top people in the field. Brian Johnson came, brought his friends, his father to do gene therapy fast. New companies got created with just within a few months approved to test new advanced therapies like gene therapies and so on, and engineered organisms in humans. So it's like, okay, well, this is not just the dream, a goal to develop therapies at warp speed. We created an environment where that happened, and then here this is a bit different because we were it's a lot more communal living, and it's in a major city where you have all the you don't have to give up on the amenities of a major city. And also finally I could live because usually I was organizing as the main organizer, and I was just taking on so much, and now the responsibility was on Victoria. So I was like, oh, I can actually enjoy this environment. So I'm the healthiest I've ever been.
Okay,
yeah.
Happy for you.
Exactly, happy for you. I've been.
It's not.
She's like.
I'm a little bit. I'm a little bit on the other side of this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you enjoyed Zuzalo and Vitalia.
I did enjoy 5 pop-up cities before being on the other side of organizing one, and now I can relate so much to people who put so much effort into bringing this to life. It seemed easy. It seemed easy when I was there as a participant and co-creating the experience, but not being so hands-on on what's where and how people should be placed in housing or coordinate everything. And it's so much work. And I'm super grateful for Zuzalo or the first pop-up cities and the rest that followed. Because without that work beforehand, there wouldn't have been like a blueprint of how to apply this and how to implement and how to really make it happen. So for me, it was a lot of limited resilience over the weeks. It's been like months of working hard, but I didn't work on this alone, so I had a huge support from the team. If I would do it again, yes, but I need also to look back and like really collect feedback from all the residents, from all the people who were involved or participated, so we can know exactly what's that we didn't cover yet. Like what do we need to offer on top of what we already did, so we can make it better next time. But for me, the highlight would probably be the witnessing the connections that were created here. It's like at a human level, we were so close to each other, like proximity-wise first, because we lived in the same houses. And we had healthy breakfast every day, went to the gym together, did sauna together. So all these activities are like mandatory. They're super needed in order to see each other in different settings so we can relate and understand each other as human beings. And only when the trust is established, then you can create projects together. Otherwise, it's really hard to jump into collaborating with someone if you haven't seen them in different situations. So I think this is the value actually of bringing people together, and yeah, seeing them create further, like what's next for them. I'm super happy to see other projects spinning off of Zelar.city.
Yeah, I think for me it was like to your question, like our reflection. It was a lot of personal learning. Like I mainly worked in the operational side, so it's like learning how to properly delegate, learning how to like properly manage my time without like being on small tasks all day. I think that was like for me personally, and just about the general project. I'm convinced that this is like a place like this is the place where I want to live at. Like I want to be surrounded by people that are like that want to work on the same thing I want to work on. I want to be surrounded by people that are motivated to work. I want to be surrounded by people that want to care about their health. Like we went to a club together during the day, and like nobody was drinking alcohol, and that's like, I want to live in a place like this. So yeah.
And any of your projects, I mean, you should at least take the opportunity to show your YouTube channel, because we're co-publishing this interview, and you're also publishing my recent interview with you. So yeah, I actually like. Just to clarify, I'm a big fan of your YouTube. I've binge watched some of those podcasts with you over the past few days before having my interview with you. So yeah, I mean, I think it deserves a lot more viewers. So
So I have my podcast. I'm currently thinking on if I should invest more time in that, or if I should, I don't know, go more all in on the pop-up city side. And I'm debating myself, so it's not it's not fully formed yet. But the podcast will definitely keep going. I will definitely keep interviewing people that want to work on aging, that are interested in this field. So yeah.
And I will remind you that we have a lot of lectures from Zelar.
Oh yeah, they will also be uploaded on the Zelar.city channel.
very cool. Yeah, I mean, just another idea. I think it would be cool if also we could compile some kind of curriculum, perhaps, like Life Extension 101. But yeah,
probably for longevity, FYI.
Anyway, so just to conclude my impressions, I enjoyed it a lot. I agree with everything that people have said. These kinds of group houses, they combine many of the best things about living in a big interesting city with many interesting people, but you have to there's a kind of enemy that comes with living in many big metropolises because you don't know everybody around you. It's the opposite in a village, but in practice, most people, interesting people, leave small villages because there's not much stimulating things going on. It's not like the medieval ages where people are stuck in place. And I think that these kinds of international communities, network societies, like however you want to call them, coordinations, like Primavera, like that's her term. They, their main selling feature is that they seem to combine the best features of big city life with the solidarity that you see in traditional village life, but without the major downsides that come with both of them. So that is why I love it, and I hope that I can continue spending a substantial percentage of my life in like settings like these. As concerns my own project, I am continuing to work on Sophia DAO, which is a DAO that has as its aim the aim of enhancing human intelligence. Hoping to get that off the road, but the other sides that and posts about which I will talk about this at greater length see the biosingularities near for like the introductory like ideology behind it. The other thing concerns my blog. This is going to be co-posted on Elias's YouTube channel, and it will also be the inaugural post in the podcast section of my Elite Human Capital blog. So again, thanks to Elias for setting up the cameras and helping organize this sort of summing up meeting. And I think that one major role I could sort of play in this community is to continue writing about network states, live extension, and also taking interviews and doing podcasts with people who are sort of like related to the sphere, but are also like involved in the broader kind of teapot type displays on Twitter, community. Thanks for being here, and let's continue making that optional.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I love all of you.
Thank you for coming to Zelar.city.
Yeah. Lawrence is hungry. Bye bye.
No, I didn't finish my thought.
Finish your thought. The camera's still running.
No.
The camera's still running. Finish your thought, Victoria.
No, like everyone is up already.
You can cut.
No, I will not cut it. Finish it. There's the camera. Look in the camera.
I wanted to say thank you for coming to Zelar.city and see you at the next one.
Yes.
Yes, dude.
Dude.